I've had this conversation on the back burner for like a week. As I was driving to work last week, I was super frustrated at how slow people were going. And I hope this analogy isn't too corny, but it works for me, so whatever. Um, but yeah, I was really annoyed at just how slow people were going. And was finding myself angry, was finding myself frustrated by that. And I just kind of had this breakthrough moment of like how stupid that was. And just like, hey, you have been driving for like 20 years. You know that you don't control the speed at which you get to drive. That everyone in front of you gets to control the speed at which you drive. The speed limit controls that. You know, weather controls that. Lights, signs, like so many things control the speed at which you drive. That even if the weather is great and it says you can go 90 and whatever, that there's people in front of you that could be going 70 and they're in the wrong lane and whatever else. And like, how have you not accepted that reality yet? And I just had this moment of you don't control the speed, you control the direction. It's like, for the most part, I can always control the direction at which I drive, where I go. I can choose to turn left or right. I can even choose to stop, right? I can't control how fast I go. And I just had this moment of like, you don't control the speed, you just control the direction. And in life, I think for me, when I talk about speed, it could be things like events that are out of my control, anxiety, chaos, stress-inducing events or behaviors or actions that need a response from me, but I can't control how quickly I get to move through those challenges because I'm relying on others. So I get to choose my direction. I get to choose how I handle that scenario, how how I get to move within this new challenge, but I don't get to choose the speed at which it gets resolved, and how people might make things even more difficult. I just get to choose how I am going to respond. And that was just like a really big breakthrough thing for me, even though, again, logically it's been one thing, in practice it's been another. And even in theory, I've railed against how ridiculous it is that people can't just do this and do this and do this, and why are we doing it this way? Obviously, this is the most efficient way. Like, I should be upset. Like, I should be angry about it. Like, because this is ridiculous. And just like, but that isn't really putting the theory into practice very well. Like, I need to acknowledge I don't get a say in those things other than myself, how I react. And it becomes one of those, I gotta grab a quote here. I forgot I wanted to include some quotes. Hold on a second. Okay, so there's a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And I had to read it in university, but I don't remember for what course. And basically, it was about this doctor, about this man who was present in the concentration camps in Germany and stuff, and as a Jewish person, and he basically talked about how even when you have nothing left, like, you aren't making the decisions you're making, right? Like, I mean, you aren't making the decisions that you are, I can't word this right now. You don't get to choose what you do on a daily basis. Everything is planned out for you. You do this when I say. You still retain the right to choose how you react. And so that's what I mean, I've had that knowledge, that understanding for years and years and years. And just putting it into practice has taken so much time. So long. And so yeah, there's Harold S. Kushner as well, who had some. I think he did the foreword or the introduction or something, and that's what I'm trying to find right now because I didn't think it was this far in. But It relates like a lot, and it's something that I think about, and it just never stuck until this silly moment in the car when for some reason then it just stuck finally. Um, I should have got this ready sooner. Sorry for the interruption, but this is the reality of what we're doing. This is ridiculous. How is it this far? I don't believe. What did I miss it at the very beginning? What's happening here? Oh yeah, right at the very beginning. So suffering in and of itself is meaningless. We give our suffering meaning by the way in which we respond to it. So again, we give something meaning in how we do have a decision. We do have choice. We make those choices, like how I choose to respond to that thing, right? Or just the fact that you retain choice, basically. We're never left with nothing as long as we retain the freedom to choose how we will respond. Which again is Harold S. Kushner. It's not Viktor Frankl, but he was summing up the spirit of the book there. And I think that's the biggest one, is like retaining that choice, retaining that ability to choose and recognizing that. And that's why I'm just like, well, I can't control the speed, but I control the direction. Like, I can control how I conduct myself in these scenarios, even if I didn't put myself in those scenarios. And that amount of control, I think, is very freeing and liberating to acknowledge that I don't have to do that. I mean, there's this other quote that has to do with, like, oh, what was it? It's just like something with, like, hatred. The notion of hatred is, like, drinking poison expecting the other person to die. And it was just like that is your choice, right? And you are creating a negative environment for yourself by holding on to hatred. And I think it's just similar in that aspect of, again, like it's so liberating to realize, to put into practice, to have it click that I'm making choices. I can choose how I react. And it's a very difficult thing when you have this notion of someone made me feel this way, and they're like, no, they said a thing, and I can choose how I feel about that thing. I can choose how I act, and that's different. Like the initial emotion or feeling versus the reaction on that, like based on that. It'd be really difficult to not feel bad if someone insulted you, but then some people can insult me. It doesn't make me feel bad at all because I don't know those people. I don't care about those people, whatever, right? But also, it could just be one of those things where someone can insult you and I get to decide who is that person, why are they saying that, what is the context, why would I feel bad about that when I know that in my heart that that's not who I am and not what I do, or being like, okay, this is a learning opportunity. They've said some things that resonate and I got some work to do. And no, their delivery wasn't great, but anyway, the point is you get to decide. You get to choose, and that's once I put that into practice, I feel like, wow. Like, I feel like once I can do that more consistently, I think I will just really be in an incredibly different place. And already since last week, I've tried to tell this to myself, and I had, like, some super bad anxiety this past weekend, but, like, I've been trying to put that into practice and feeling good about it. And I want to continue in this line of thinking and action and feeling that I don't really have as much control of these outer elements as I want to have, and I have to accept that. And I have way more control about the inner elements of myself than I have ever wanted to be responsible for. And now I can acknowledge that and be responsible for that. And say, no, I can control how I am reacting and how I'm even feeling or thinking about this incident. And choose or attempt to make some choices about how I'm feeling. And I think that again, will just be incredibly liberating to live that way and to really let stuff go so much sooner and quicker and in a full way.